Hello. I assume that people are joining. I can't see the live stream chat right now for some reason. Thank you, YouTube. Sure hope that YouTube will let me see the chat at some point, but until then, I'm gonna assume that people are maybe watching. Hi. I'm gonna be working on a silly shell SMG that is HPA, fed from modified battle axe magazines, which are detachable from the blaster. I'm going to be using this project to both develop those magazines, which I've been meaning to do for a while now, and also to just mess around with HPA a bit more to learn. So yeah, that should be good. I've been meaning to make the detachable magazine standard for a while now. I've had a lot of notes that I've written down as to like what features I want the magazines to have, so I'm just gonna start doing it. Because if I don't start doing it, then it's not gonna happen. So I'm just gonna make some magazines. And we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I'm not planning on talking a lot during this live stream. I'm also not planning on reading chat a lot during this live stream. I'm just gonna be designing Blaster, and you're gonna be here along for the ride. So, and I'm going to be listening to music, which I have hidden from the stream because it is copyrighted. I got my wonderful. Oh, that's the live stream. Where's my music? Here it is. There we go. Beautiful music. All right. Other than that, I'm not really planning on looking at chat or any of that stuff. So I will have it up on my side monitor in case something cataclysmic happens to the live stream or something like that. But other than that, I'm just gonna chill and work on project. So yeah, thanks for popping in and enjoy the live stream. Not sure how long I'll be live streaming. I don't really have anything else I need to do today. So I might do this until like just before lunchtime or something like that. Who knows? Yep, seems about it. All right, I'm gonna probably mute my microphone and just work on stuff. Yeah. If you can hear the music that I play, starting in like a minute or so, text in the chat because I don't want you to be able to hear the music because it's copyrighted. If you don't hear anything, then that's good. Uh, I've moved my microphone off to the side. I assume that audio is still vaguely functional. I'm just going to be mumbling to myself while I design this, so enjoy my mumblings. Alright, back to my music. Bye bye. Oh, good. Fusion's crashing. Lovely. I love it when Fusion 360 crashes. It's my favorite activity. I'm currently mucking with my microphone setup so I can move it out of my view a bit better. There we go. That's good. All right. There we go. There's better microphone setup. Sure would love it if Fusion would stop trying to crash. That would be lovely. It does this a lot. Lovely. Where's that, this? And then where's that other thing? This thing. Beautiful. Alright. 1 second. Wait. Oh. Display capture. This one. Here we go. Yes. So, this is what happens all the time whenever I work on a new project in Fusion 360. Decides to try and crash, which is lovely. It's my favorite activity. Great use of my time on a Sunday. Usually I just need to wait for it to finish up, and then it'll be done. I mean, I guess I can use this time to show you guys what the words thing that I'm working on is. Excuse me. So, this is the thing. This is an old message from October of 2024, but essentially, at that point, I was planning on making a phone call. At that point, I was planning on making a SMG blaster modeled after the Team Fortress 2 sticky bomb launcher. But now I don't really want to. Because the plan was to have it be either a Springer or an HPA blaster, and this project is sort of split into two different projects. Um, I was planning on doing a sticky bomb launcher and then having this sort of drum permanently attached to the blaster. So you just pull back the little lever and then you load it in through the side, sort of like Battle Axe. And I was planning for this to be a Springer. But now I sort of want to do an HPA blaster in this similar sort of format. So I'm going to keep the Springer version as a separate idea for later and then do the HPA thing now, which is essentially a HPA blaster in the back with magazines around about here that you can swap out and put in new ones. Sort of like an HK MP5K. Sort of like this, but giant and for silly shells. And it actually occurred to me last night while I was talking about this that someone did something similar-ish to this. GDOP did it with Flycore shells. Or not Flycore. What are they called? Flypoint shells. As a flywheeler. But I don't think he ever released this. But I want to do a big, fully automatic, silly shell machine gun thing, because that would be so cool. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. If Fusion 360 didn't try to crash, I'm gonna go see what that phone call was. You guys can all enjoy this wonderful Fusion 360 crashing. I'll be back. Don't destroy the world. Don't tear down the stream. I'll be back. Welcome back to the Fusion 360 Hates My Life hotline. Everything sucks. Alright, let's look at chat. I wish my country allowed HPA. Yep. Never worked with Fusion. Do you recommend Fusion 360 for intermediate 3D modelers? Yeah, it's okay. Fusion 360 is okay. I mean, it crashes a lot, as is very evident by it crashing currently. But other than that, it's fine. What else? Silly shell grenade. I don't know. Hi, Foam Mando. Something that's been bouncing my brain is some sort of drop-in conversion that makes random Nerf gun fire airsoft BBs. I don't really like airsoft, so I'm not going to be the one to do that. You could probably make that happen, but I don't really want to. Make it similar to a Mag 7. Let's Google a Mag 7. 5x long magnificent 7 ETP is trading 17.18 euros. Wow. I bet that's not what you were trying to say. Ah, it's this thing. Okay. It might end up looking sort of like that. It's not going to have a magazine in the grip, though. And I do try to steer away from real steel profiles, so I don't know. Okay, what else? Just ejecting heavy shells at full auto? Yes! Yes, I am, because who cares about other people next to you? Just throw shells at their face. It's gonna be lovely. Am I good? I'd be better if Fusion wasn't trying to crash, but other than that, yeah, I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. What else? Yes, I am live. FreeCAD is painful. I think I tried it once when I was beginning to get into 3D modeling, but it's rough. Fusion is similar to Onshape. I've never used Onshape or SolidWorks, but from what I've seen, Fusion 360 is most similar to Onshape. It's slightly less similar to SolidWorks, but it's still really like your skills will transfer over. It's just going to be a little bit more different. Other than that, it's pretty comparable. If I recall correctly, Onshape does have a timeline function at the bottom where you can scrub through like progress of your project throughout its history. But I don't think that SolidWorks does. So that's going to be the main difference between Fusion 360 and those two. I love it when Fusion 360 does horrible things. It's my favorite. I love it. So yeah. This is how my day's going. Yay! I bet this is all what you guys wanted to watch. Just the frickin' thing not loading. It's lovely, isn't it? Okay. Well, since Fusion 360 is crashing right now constantly, is there anything else I could be doing right now? You know what? Yes, there is. I'm going to plug in my webcam and I'm going to show you Breacher because I'm bored. Alright. Let's see if I can get this to work. Video capture device. Yeah. That did not work good. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Okay. Video capture device. Put that above. Ooh, hello. This looks very wonderful, wonderful webcam. Oh. Ah! Hi. Welcome to my messy workshop. Yay. There we go. Hi. Behold my desk that needs to be cleaned. This is what the project on the computer is supposed to be based off of. We're just going to be putting these here. That's pretty much it. Why does Fusion 360 have to crash so much? Such a pain. Alright, let's see if we can get a adequate camera view. Wow. Haha. These nuts. Got him. Alright, I'm just gonna muck around with some stuff and show it off because I might as well, because I don't have anything else to do while I'm waiting for Fusion to load. Let's move the micro Pahony a bit closer. Oh, magic. So this is the Silly Shell holder testing thing that I put together a few months ago. I'm planning on releasing this before Breacher. I haven't decided quite when, but sometime before Breacher. This is some Molly attachment back here, but you can also attach other various crap here. This is Midlock. That's MIDLOCK lock by chance, which I just spliced onto the back of here. So this can attach to like whatever that can attach to, which I'm going to use it to attach to Molly. So the thought of this is that you have several of these lined up here along your chest, and then you just rip shells off the top to load the blaster. Now, the design of this magazine thing is essentially a battle axe magazine, but modified to use elastic. So it's cheaper to make multiple of, since it doesn't need to go in a blaster. It can be a bit bigger and bulkier, versus using drum springs like a battle axe magazine. So that's that. Hoping to get this done before Breacher is out. What's going on in chat? Fusion, yep. Classmates, yep. When do you plan to release Breacher? End of August. Yes. Where's my thing? There it is. Loud noises. Woo! Alright, here's my thingy. Oh god. There are many things like it, but this one is mine. Look at that hair. Fun. Fusion 360 is still crashing. Here, look, I can show you. Wow! Amazing. Alright. So as you know, that's Battle Axe. Oh, microphone. Yeah. There we go. That's probably good. So as you know, this is Battle Axe. So the plan for this HPA blaster that I'm working on, or trying to work on the screen over there, is I'm going to take this stuff here, make this removable. So there's going to be a magwell here, and there's going to be some sort of catch notch on the magazine, so you can take it out and put it back in. So swappable magazines. I'm going to take the firing stuff, so the chamber, the bolt face, and the ejector mechanism. This guy right here. I'm going to take all of that crap and essentially mash that onto the front of the HPA blaster that I've got. Oh, this guy back here. HPA thing. There we go. I'm going to mash all that onto the front of that. And then make it work good. That's the plan. more specifically, the HPA portions. I need to be careful with this because it's still got its umbilical attached, and I don't want to knock all of my stuff off my desk. All right, so we've got the HPA thing, right? Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is cutting it here, but also here. So I'm essentially only using the grip from this, because the grip has the solenoid valve and like the firing mechanism and stuff like that. And that way, if I just use the grip from this, when I update the actual HPA thing, this actual blaster right here, to have the box on the bottom that I'm planning for this, for firing modes and stuff. Man, I should really give context. This is an electronics box. It has a microcontroller in there. I'm planning on adding a switch to the side of this, and my buddy Wonderboy is going to be coding it so that I can switch between semi-auto, full auto, and safe on this blaster. In order to do that, I'm making that box over there a permanently attached thing on the bottom of this grip on this blaster. So it's going to be sticking out the bottom just a little bit, sort of like an actual HPA gun, or sort of like an actual paintball gun, but not quite as big, just like a little box down here. So since I'm planning on doing that to this blaster, and I'm going to be using this grip on the new blaster, which I'm trying to work on, I can essentially just cut it here and cut off the magwell portion of this and keep all this bottom stuff the same. So when I make updates to this HPA thing blaster, I can then just transfer those updates to this new blaster without having to remodel everything. Hope that made sense. So the functionality for the silly shell thing is going to be, I'm going to take the front end of that with the magazines removable once I make that thing. And essentially, I'm going to take the HPA core, which is the silver tank here, which holds the air, and I'm just going to mash that onto the back of the bolt face here. So the tank is going to be flying back and forth whenever it's firing. That should be fine. And that's all going to be operated by a pneumatic cylinder. I've run out of places to put things, which I'm going to show you in a second. That's going to run on a... Where is it? Is this it? Yeah! That's going to run on a pneumatic cylinder. Bigger one than this. This one only goes to 75 millimeters in length, so that's as far as it extends. But I'm planning on getting one that extends to 100 millimeters in length, and that should be enough to fully cycle a silly shell breech that properly feeds a shell and then ejects it, or extracts it and then ejects it out the side. 100 millimeters of movement of this thing should be enough for that. And it needs to be slightly more powerful than this one, because this one I sized just to feed darts from a Talon magazine, rather than having to operate all the crap for a breech of silly shells. A lot more weight and mass moving around on that. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm going to be doing. Mechanically speaking, it's just going to be this thing attached to what is essentially the bottom of a battle axe priming handle thing. And this is just going to be flying that breech back and forth to fire shells. Should be fun. And I'm not planning on doing any sort of dart detection or anything like that. Or I guess shell detection, which would be if you ran out on some like electronic blasters. If you run out, it stops firing, so you don't like dry fire the blaster. I'm not going to do that because that probably will add a lot more complexity to the thing and cost more. So I'm just not going to do that. So yeah, that's the plan for the HPA SMG project. Other than that, I haven't decided yet whether I want a stock on it or not. I'll probably put a buffer tube stock on it. I'll probably put a buffer tube stock on it because it's going to be heavy. So I want to have like that third point of contact against the shoulder, because you got your point of contact in the front grip, you've got your firing grip, and then you've got another one on your shoulder. If you just have the two in the front, then you can aim it willy-nilly wherever you want, but it's a bit heavy. So having that third point of contact on the shoulder makes it a bit lighter, easier to move around because weight is distributed differently. By the way, still waiting for Fusion 360 to stop crashing. Isn't that great? Yeah. 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 I don't know. Do you guys want to see Breacher? I can show you Breacher. Oh god. It's not light because it's covered in shells. Hey, there's your Breacher. Let's move this out of the way a bit more. Ta-da. Alright. There's Breacher. Why aren't you forced stopping in Task Manager? So, this happens a lot. This Fusion 360 awfulness happens a lot. To the point where I kind of know what it's doing, even though it's not telling me what it's doing. Right now, it is trying to move all of the bodies in a group folder into a new component, the topmost component in the file structure of that project. And it really doesn't like doing that. So, it's going to be sitting here and looking like it's crashed for like 30 plus minutes, which sucks, but that's just what it does. And if you force quit out of it, it just, like, the same thing is going to happen again when I try to do it again after. So there's no reason to force quit out of it. And even though it looks like it's crashed completely, it hasn't. It's still working on it. So eventually it's just going to magically finish up and act like nothing wrong happened, even though it's been like 40 minutes since I tried to do the thing. So yeah, Fusion 360, it's lovely. In the assembly, I don't know terminology here, I'll show you. I'm trying to move these files here, or these bodies here, out of this battle axe component down here into this main component up here. So what I've done is I've dragged all of these into one group folder. That did not crash. And I dragged that group folder up here, and I put it up there, and that's what causes it to start hiccuping. So once it finishes moving all of this crap up to here, then all of this will magically fix itself, and then we can continue working. But until then, you're stuck with me. I love Fusion 360. It's so good. Breacher. This is a blaster. This is Breacher, as you know. I've been working on getting it ready for beta. It is now in beta, which is very exciting. I've lost my train of thought. Breacher. It's in beta. That's good. There should be like 20 or 25 people beta testing it, printing it. Not all of them are printing it at the same time, but there's at least 5 of them being printed right now. Probably 6 or 7. And I'm pretty darn happy with it. Really, really happy with where it's at right now. It is still double feeding like once out of every 16 shells or something like that, but the double feeds are a lot less severe. They're sort of, I don't know, easier to fix now as opposed to previous issues. All these blue parts here are reprints versus all the green parts, which were original prints for this prototype. So now the shell stops are also different. They've got these little tabs on the end, and that lets you manually operate them if need be. The one on this side is bigger, and on the version that went to beta testers, it's this side, this bigger version on this side that went on both sides. So essentially you've got this, and you can just hit that with your finger to operate the shell stop manually. So if it does decide to double feed, you can kind of muck with it super easily. Just go boop, and then it will fix itself, sort of. It also allowed me to, on this side, on this particular prototype right here, there's an extra spring. So that one extra spring on just this side, this right side does not have an extra spring. This left side does have an extra spring. The extra spring on the left side made this quite a bit more reliable in terms of double feeding or not double feeding. So it's just that getting that balance between the two shell stops just right is the difficult part. So that's what I've been working on. And right now it's loaded up with shells. These are all empty shells. Because why not? So I've just been mucking around with this in my off time, just running tons and tons and tons of shells through it. I told you so! Fusion 360! It's alive! Oh my god. It's come back to life. Oh! See, that's the crap that I was talking about. How long did that take? What, 27-ish minutes? Something like that? Yeah! Autodesk. Why? And now I still need to wait for it to finish doing that crap. Anyway. Actually, I have a meme prepared for this moment. 1 second. Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what we've been waiting for. It's done? Okay, I'm going to immediately save in Fusion. Because I don't want to do that again. Alright, so we'll go back to the designing of the blaster in a little bit. But this is the thing. Yeah, exactly. This is Source Filmmaker. Takes so long to do anything, and it's glitchy and horrible. This is the load-bearing coconut 3D model or whatever it is. Right. I'm going to load up this and just run through it, shooting it, because why not? But like I mentioned, it's been improved quite a bit, so really happy with it. This shell holder up here is actually one of the old prototypes of it. This is from like late 2024. This was when I still hadn't decided quite how strong I want the shell latch to be. But right now I can like hold the entire blaster by the shell and it not come out. So I made it a little bit weaker for release. But right now it's a little bit stout on this. There you go. Rip headphone users. Right, I also made this match saber attachment. This is also holding onto the shell a little bit too tight, but other than that, it works fine. So, like that. Does Breacher have strap connection points? It does not yet have any sling points or anything like that, because I couldn't really decide a good spot to put them. Like, I could attach it to the stock back here, or actually to this piece of the stock right here, in like a straight line. But, like, that sort of, like, if I have it on that side, it would, like, dig into the shoulder a little bit, so I'm not really sure. Like, I could stick it on the bottom, but then, like, if you let go of the blaster, it sort of, like, swings upside down when you hold it. I don't know, I haven't really decided where I want to put sling points. And then on the front, I would attach it to this front green piece at that angle and just have it like here, sticking out the side, or maybe up here. Don't know. I'll have to work on that later. Right. So another separate story. I actually just now finished unpacking my bags from Maryland Mayhem 2025. Almost exactly 2 months after the event. It took me this long to go and unpack my suitcases. So now I've got all my shells and darts from the event, which is nice. I don't think they have any Mega XL in here, so this is going bye-bye. And why, yes, I do just dump all my shells on the floor, because it's not mistreating my parts, it's durability testing. Yes. And yes, I do let them get covered in dirt and crap from events and sitting on my floor. No, it's not abusing them, it's durability testing. Again. Alright. HPA noodle. Alright. Any other questions about Breacher? I'm perfectly happy to answer any of them. And also, people here for the Fusion 360 modeling of the HPA thing, it's gonna come in like 5 or 10 minutes. If you want to tell all your best friends and buddies to come on down to the epic Sillybutts live stream, where he doesn't know how to live stream well, send people the link to the epic live stream. While I load silly shells. Feel free to ask me all of your most burning questions about Breacher, or HPA, or literally anything. This is my chill Sunday stream, where I will listen to music that you guys cannot hear because it's copyrighted, and just work on blasters. These are all used darts from Maryland Mayhem that I had at my booth. Just blasting tons of darts, tons of shells. I think there's some game face darts in here too. It's just a mix. Am I going to End War this year? No. No, I'm not. I go to pretty much one major event a year now. Because I live in Maine, so it's pretty far from most events. Maryland Mayhem 2025 was my big event this year, and then I'm going into college this fall, so probably not going to have time to go to any other events, because I'm going to be busy either getting ready for college or being in college. Additionally, I'm not sure if I really want to go to End War again. I went to End War once. I went to End War 2022, which was famously the one that sucked. So that sort of soured my End War experience view. So I'm probably not going to go to End War again anytime soon, at least. That's the one where Dispute Zone Pro from the foam tournament and all that stuff. Where I fixed their blasters before the tournament, and then they said, too bad. Let's send them out with the broken ones anyway. And then they all broke during the tournament and caused lots of problems. Oh boy, who could have foreseen this? This is the thing. Shell, 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 shell. We are one shell away from loading this up fully. So I'm just gonna load up. I'm gonna load up another 2 shells. Alright, so open, shell in, close. 1, 2, 3, 4, in there. Then, because I don't want to shoot at that wall over there, I'm gonna shoot it this direction. Oh yeah, I'm so good at YouTube, man. Oh yeah, baby. All right. And stuck in the thing. Shell. That's full at 4. Match saber. Final shell. So, Preacher is pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Alrighty. Got shells all over the place now. Alright. Let's get back to Fusion 360 now that it's done crashing. Yay. Alright. Move the micro pahony. And the camera. Yes. Beautiful. Alright. I'm going to turn off the camera now. Alright, back to CAD. Woo. Alright. Wonder if the trick of flipping over the blaster and reloading from the top is reliable. I don't know what you're talking about, honestly. Flipping over the blaster and reloading from the top. Oh, you mean just turning it upside down and then loading in the shells with the loading port facing your face with the blaster held upside down? Yeah, that works fine. That's what I do. Cannot wait to build that shotgun. Yes. Alright. Welcome back to my epic live stream. I'm gonna get back to doing CAD now that Fusion is done crashing. Yay. Alrighty. Make sure to tell all of your hip and cool friends to join my epic live stream. Alright. So, now, 52 minutes into the live stream, we can finally begin showing you how to start a blaster project. Lovely. So yes. So, in this project file, I've got multiple things. This here was, or is, essentially a layout that I had to make a top primed pistol out of battle axe, sort of like a miniature battle axe with the top slide prime. I haven't worked on this in a while because I've been busy with Breacher, but this is essentially some work that I did beforehand to see how short you can have the prime be on a blaster system like this while still fully extracting and ejecting a shell. So, I'm going to just recycle this measurement that I've made. That measurement is an alarm on my phone. That measurement is, let's find out. Will we need soldering device for Breacher? No, you do not need to solder anything on Breacher. However, there are heat set inserts. So you do need a way to like heat those up and mash them into the plastic. I personally don't use a soldering iron for that. A lot of people do. But what I do is I get a really long M3 screw, like an M3 by 50 or an M3 by 80 screw, and I just put the heat set on the end, and I hold a lighter, like a barbecue lighter, underneath it to heat it up, and then I mash it into the print. Now you do need to be careful with that because the screw does get hot, that you don't burn yourself. So don't do like all of them at the same time. Like let the screw cool down a little bit between each one. But other than that, it works fine for me. So that's what I do. But other than a way to install the heat set inserts, you don't need a soldering iron or any sort of heating device for Breacher. Yeah. Whoop. One moment. I'm dropping stuff on my desk. Where'd that go? Oh no. Everything's gone horribly wrong. There we go. That works. Fine. Alright. What was I saying? Battle sword, battle mace for this short pistol thing? I don't know. I hadn't really decided upon a name of it. I only decide on names after they're pretty much mostly done. Rainbow if it was cool. True. Alright, right, so the prime distance of this thing. I need this bolt face. If I recall correctly, I think it was like 90 or 95? I think it's 95 millimeters. Yeah, that lines up correctly with that back bit. So if I line this up here, this to here, yeah, 95 millimeters is what we're going to go with. So now I can get rid of this. And isolate. Here we are. Here's Battle Axe. I'm going to dissolve all of these mirror objects and pattern objects so they don't change bits of the blaster that I don't want changed. Very good. Okay. So here's Battle Axe, and we're now going to destroy it. So I don't need the. Well, actually, it's easier to hide the stuff that you do need as opposed to getting rid of all the stuff that you don't need. So I'm gonna get all of this crap and hide that because I do need that. I do need the O-ring. I guess I need that. And then pretty much everything else here. Oh wait, and then I need this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing. Alright. Now pretty much everything else here I do not need. So bye bye Battle Axe. Whoop. Alonzo, I actually don't use a heat gun. I use a lighter, but a heat gun would work. Well, I'm not sure if a heat gun would work actually because that's too big of a heating surface to really do it correctly. I literally just hold the M3 screw on the end of a bolt and I hold a lighter underneath it, like an open flame, and that works fine for doing heat sets in my opinion. It's probably not the safest thing in the universe, but it's what I do. So this is the bits that we need from Battle Axe, essentially. We don't need the muzzle, because I'm going to be making a new muzzle. We don't need the front rail. We don't need the other muzzle. We don't think that we need that, right? Okay. Now, how open is this? This is 40 millimeters. So what we can do here is we can go here, here. We can find the center of that face. We can go 40, and then we can go make an offset off of that for 4 millimeter wall. Sure that this has no of those, and then we can just go 15 out of that. There we go. Now we have a dummy barrel to work with. We can get rid of the bar tensioning block because we don't need it. What else can we get rid of? So we need that. We need that. Oh, we don't need this. This was an old thing that I was working on. A one shell magazine. I still need to finish that sometime. Someone asked me for a one shell magazine for Breacher. And it's essentially just a magazine that's super short, and then it has a compliant plastic spring as the quote-unquote magazine feed lip thing, because you still need some positive pressure up on the shell for it to feed correctly. But we don't need that right now, so that go bye-bye. We need a dummy model. We don't need the Mega XL dummy. We do need the silly shell. We do need priming block. shell stabilizer extractor, bolt face. That is dummy shell to mark where the ejecting happens. We need this. Do we need that? I guess we can keep that for now. The only part of this that we need is like the top half of it. We don't need the stuff that has the bars. Muzzle B. We don't need muzzle B. We do need the chamber. Cool. Alright, now show everything. Alright. Super shorty, bad name because, I don't know. I want to say Battle Axe is my currently favorite blaster to use. Being able to use multiple ammo types is really useful. Thank you. It is good. I'm glad that you like it. Ever thought of a sideways mag? Depending on context, yes. I have done sideways magazine normal dart blasters a few times. Like one of my old 3D models is a Raider style magwell for the Talon Claw, V3 and Talon Claw U, where it has the magazine coming out the side. And then I also did the Kingfisher, which I haven't released yet because I don't know, I just haven't gotten around to it. Which is that modernized ESLT blaster, which has a magazine sticking out the side. So side magazines are fun. I just haven't released any full blasters that use them for no particular reason other than I just haven't gotten around to it. Alright, so we're gonna get rid of all the bits of Battle Axe here that we don't need, like these screws. Oh, that's trying to delete the faces. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. That is what I meant to do. Saving frequently is important. How's my audio? You guys hear me fine? Sure hope so. Alright. Okay. What else do I need to do here? We can keep all the magazines. Let's just hide those for now. These screws down here. Right, those screws are all for the magazines, so we can stick those down here with the magazines. What other hardware do we have? We don't need these. We don't need those. We do need these springs to go with the magazines. We don't need that. We need to keep this. I'm going to change out these 440 screws to be the new screws that I've got, the number 4 thread-forming plastic purpose screws, or whatever it is, that I use in my newer blasters. So we got M3 screws. What else have we got? Let's show everything nicely. All right. And hide all that and that. All right, what have we got? Okay. Let's just go. So what I'm doing right here is I'm getting rid of the file folders in this sort of file browser here to make it easier to work with things one at a time. And then once it's time to reorganize everything, then I will go back and put them back into folders. But for now, we've just got O-rings, a few springs, and a few screws. And then all of this is Battle Axe. So here we go. That is essentially how I start a new project. I get all the bits that I need from a blaster, and then after I get all the bits in one place, then I can start modifying them. But first, I need to grab the bits from the HPA blaster. So I go down here to HPA blaster laid out like a paintball marker, HPA thing 2. Insert this into the current design. There we go. And we're going to go wire it down here, and we're going to unlink this component. So right now this component is connected back to this original file over here. So by breaking that component link, it just makes it so I can modify it here without it changing the original. So I've essentially made a copy of this into this workspace here. Now the parts of the HPA thing that I'm going to be taking is I'm just going to be cutting the grip right along there and then cutting it off there at the Talon magazine magwell. Once Fusion stops trying to crash. There we go. Save. As always, gotta save. Right. So this HPA thing piece down here, essentially this component, is now its own separate thing. So now I can modify this freely without causing issues. Get rid of all these example blasters I used for proportion and whatnot. Figuring out the sizing of the blaster and junk like that. I can get rid of all of these construction planes. I can get rid of all these sketches. There are a lot of them. I can get rid of these canvases, which I used to find the shape of the grip based off of a airsoft, or not an airsoft, based off of a paintball gun. What else have I got? Alright, so I don't need all that. I don't need all of that. I do need to keep some of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate just the trigger guard, so that will make all of this thing visible without showing the rest of the crap that I've got going on. And then I can start trimming this as needed. So I don't need Talon magazine. I don't need front block. I do not need the muzzle or that. I do need to keep that, this, that, this, and this. I do not need any rails. I do not need a turnaround. I do not need a barrel. I do not need all of this crap up here. I do not need all of this crap down here. I do not need this screw. I should keep one of these screws actually because I'm going to be using it for the new thing up here. Like I said, I was going to switch all those 440 screws to use these new screws that I've got. I need to bring that up there so I can do that. So that was a good thought. Let's change that. All right, and then right back up here. Let's save. Right, so I don't need that. I don't need this. I do not need magwell. I do not need that screw. And I don't think I need any of this crap. Oop. And I don't need this. And I don't need that. Cool. Alright, so now that we've got this stuff done, I can essentially just go minus I can just go chop, get rid of that. Now we don't need that bit. There we go. We don't need ball detents because I'm not using those to hold in the big silly shell magazines. I just do a little bit of cleanup on these bits here. There we go. Now we've essentially got a flat face there. I'm not sure if I want to keep the same trigger guard. I think I'm just going to leave that for now. What I'm not going to leave is I'm going to cut this along that face there, and I'm going to cut this along this face here, so I only have half of it. Because this side is the cleaner side, which didn't have that extra thingy on it, which I don't need for this new blaster. here, clean up that, and then get rid of that. And that lets me just get rid of these and that will give this a nice flat wall there. Beautiful. Right. So I can get rid of that, and then cool. That, and there we go. Now we have a nice flat side to work with when we're designing our new stuff. I'm going to make that a little bit thicker there, so that lines up better. And then I'm going to make sure that this bottom face of this thing is correctly parallel. So minus 5. Make that a little bit longer, and cut that there. Boom. There we go. Make that a little bit less, just a little bit, like that. How thick is that? 2.5? Let's do another 0.5. There we go. So that's now 3 millimeters thick between the bit where the trigger guard sits and the bottom edge of that. I know you have other priorities at the moment, but I'm definitely looking forward to the Skirmisher. Yes. I'm hoping to get Skirmisher done sometime. But honestly, at this point, it's a pretty old design of mine, even though it hasn't been released. I worked on it, a year and a half or 2 years ago at this point. I'm planning on finishing it at some point, but I just need to redo a lot of it because I've come up with new techniques and new standards of stuff and all that jazz. For example, I'm planning on removing the stock from Skirmisher when I work on it again and just putting on the Excalibur spring swapping system back there because that would fit pretty well. And right now, to swap the spring on Skirmisher, you need to loosen the bar tensioner and then take out a pin and then swap out the whole spring like that, sort of like on Battle Axe. But due to the way that Skirmisher's plunger setup is different from Battle Axe, you can actually do it with that spring door from Excalibur. So that's one of the things I'm going to have to do over there. Right. So this bit of the grip. Am I going to put a buffer tube stock on this? I think that I am, which means I'm going to extend out the back of the grip anyway, which means I don't need these screw holes. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back here and go... actually, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here, make a construction plane off of that so it's further away from the edge. I'm going to come back over here, make a rectangle, and then cut this using that tool, and then get rid of that bit. Boom, there we go. And then I'm going to extend this out like 15 millimeters-ish. The body line, there we go. Does this need to fill it? Yep. I think it, I don't know. 20, 30, 50, 40. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, that'll do. Nice. What else? I'm going to be getting rid of all these dovetaily bits on the top of that because I won't be needing those on the new blaster. Would Skirmisher have that barrel chamber thing that Excalibur does? I haven't decided yet. The only reason that I could do it on Excalibur is because it had a lot of extra length in the front, and having that printed chamber means that you need to extend out like the priming block a little bit more, unless you somehow make the priming block wide enough to fit over the chamber, and then you've made the blaster sort of bloated, width-wise. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to use that printed chamber from Excalibur on Skirmisher. I would like to, but I haven't like looked at it to see if it actually fits in Skirmisher, because Skirmisher is a lot more compact than Excalibur is. How do I want to deal with this? I think I'm going to deal with this like this. I'm going to make a line across the top, and then just fill that bit in like that. Maybe a little bit bigger. Whoop. we go. Now we've got a solid grip. I can check with the boundary fill tool to make sure that it's all solid on the inside and that there's no like hidden pockets of geometry. If there were, I would be able to select them with this little box down here and then merge them with the rest of this piece to make it all solid as opposed to having voids on the inside. Yeah. So I'm not going to be needing... actually, let me think for a second. Am I going to need the gear rack from this? I am not sure. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I'll come back to that. All right. So these are all the bits from the HPA thing that I'm going to be using. I'm not going to be using this exact tube shapes, but I'm just keeping them for now, so I can know the diameter of them. I need to model later. So now, what we do is we go into here. Now this is the same thing that made Fusion 360 crash last time when I did it with Battle Axe, or tried to crash. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. First I'm going to save, because that's a smart idea. I'm going to select all of these bits. And dissolve all of these. We're going to see if that helps at all. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy that. Actually, I'm going to get rid of some of these bits first. That might help. All right. And then HPA parts. Save once again. And then what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to do Command C, or Control C, and then Control V, and see if that works any better. Oh yeah, that worked fine. There we go. So that just goes to show you, sometimes Fusion 360 just does weird things, like trying to crash for 37 minutes or whatever it was, and then it works perfectly fine when you try to do it again. So yeah, wonderful program. Unisolate. And here we go. We've got all of our bits. This screw and that bit, that needs to go in the battle axe. And then this. Right, so I'm going to do, yeah, save. Here we go. So, now what? What do I want to work on next? I think that, I don't know. Okay, I'm thinking ahead a little bit. Now, I want the, here, let me take you through my thought process. This is the Nomad HPA core. I want to have this attached essentially here at the back of this bit of Battle Axe. In order to do so, I'm going to need to find a way to mount this to that. This does not have any threaded bits in the front, and the way that this is normally held into a blaster is it uses these ribs, and it has a sort of C-hook shape thing that this just pops into, and then it seals with an O-ring up against the front. Now, I don't think that that would really work well in the layer orientation of this Battle Axe piece, because this is printed vertically this direction along where the mouse is moving. So this front face here is up against the build plate right now. And having a sort of C-shaped thing like that back there that's having tons of force on it, it's probably going to snap along those layer lines. So what I'm thinking is, instead, I'm going to make essentially a tube around this and then have a cap on the end of that tube that has two screws, one on each side, that go all the way past this and screw it into the main bit up here. And then what I might do on those is I'll put heat set inserts in the front, so it's easy to take this out still to debug it if need be. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do on that. Now, however, I'm not doing any of that right now because first I think I need to work on the magazines. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide all those bits, and we're going to expand the contents of that. And we're going to also make a miscellaneous folder and an old folder. I use these two, miscellaneous and old folder, and that. So I'm going to put, I use these to organize the bodies as I'm working on them. So old is for parts I don't need anymore, but I don't have the heart to delete yet because I might need them later. And then I just delete them once every week or whatever. And then just has tons of crap in there, and I just delete it all. Miscellaneous is for parts that are not going into the blaster itself, but are for more like modeling tools or bits that I think that I'll need in the future. So for example, I'm not working on the HPA thing parts right now, so they're going into the miscellaneous folder, which I can now hide and then come back to later. Another thing that I usually have in the miscellaneous tools folder is I actually don't have it here with me right now, but I have little pre-made 3D models for like all the screw holes as negative tools, which I can use this combine function in Fusion 360 to select two things and then cut away one object using another. And I use those to make all the screw holes. So I just place those around wherever I want a screw hole to be, and then I just use the combine function to get through all of them. Now, you could use, if you had the timeline enabled, which I don't, you could use there's some function in Fusion where you can like place fasteners upon every little point that you make. That would be really useful for using those little shapes there. So you put little fastener dots all over everything, and then you just select the hole tool, and then just blast all the holes through the part wherever you want them. But I don't use the timeline because it hurts my head and it causes lots of issues and it makes it crash a lot. So I do direct modeling like this, and that's how I do that. Looks like one of the beta testers is almost done with their breacher. Woo! You don't get to see it. But okay. What's this? Cool. Another beta tester for breacher is almost done with theirs as well. Wonderful. Anyway, battle axe bits. Right, so this is battle axe, or what's left of it, and now I'm going to begin trimming this down. So the only bit that I needed from the front of this is I needed to get this bit, and I need to get those, -2.5, trim, boom, there we go, get rid of all that. And then what I need from this is I need to go here, get this shape, like, what is it, 38, and then trim that there, and I do not need that. And then for now I can just get rid of this sort of brim chamfer that I've got around this. There we go. Beautiful. So the only reason why I need this is I needed to have access to these sort of locking shapes in there because those match up with the back of the bolt face of Battle Axe. Like that. And I'm hoping to keep as much of this the same between Battle Axe and this HPA blaster that's based upon, or that is being based upon Battle Axe. For example, I want to keep the same bolt face because if it works fine, there's no real reason to muck with it. So I'm just going to keep it the same. Do you think Nomad Core has enough air volume to reliably work with most of the shells that are out there? I'm sure the pressure would have to be raised, but curious if that's enough. Yes, it's got tons of pressure. The V1 at Nomad Core that I have has plenty enough pressure to work on pretty much any silly shell. And the V1.1, the new ones that he's working on right now, that should be hopefully for sale before the end of the year, those have even more air volume within the same size HPA tank, and it's compatible with all previous Nomad Core designs. And that one will really send silly shell projectiles flying. So I'm looking forward to that. Silly, what to use for tolerances? It really depends. It depends a lot on like what print orientation are the things on. If they are sharing the same vertical print orientation, do you have like layer lines rubbing against each other? At that point, if you want a sliding past them loose fit, I would do like a 1 millimeter tolerance total, so like 0.5 on each side. But if it was like a flatly printed part and then a vertically printed part sliding against each other, that would need less tolerance because the layer lines aren't trying to lock into each other. Like a 0.4 millimeter tolerance on each side. So 0.8 millimeters total, as opposed to 1 millimeter total, which is 0.5 on each side. Stuff like that. And then like if like on the top slide of Foxbat, between the slide and the bits underneath the slide, I think it's 1 millimeter on each side, or like 0.6 or 0.8 millimeters on each side. So it's nice and loose, so you can slide it back and forth without it causing issues. I'm excited for Breacher's release, says Jaeger. I am also excited for Breacher's release. I hope that it goes well. I hope that it finally gets over with so I can relax. And by relax, I mean go do college work once I'm in college, because college is going to be starting right after, or right before Breacher releases. Stressful. Right, so this stuff. Which of these holes are used for that? Those ones. Yes, cool. So I don't need these. I just need those. So I'm going to make this pop out a little bit, and then do another 5 there, but that without the screw holes to make those screw holes sort of end at the bottom there. There we go. So this is now the bit that the tank is going to attach to right here, which should be good. Now what? What else do I need to do? That's a good question. Let's do this bit. Actually, let's do this bit, I guess. I don't need all of this funkiness here because there's no priming grip on this new blaster. So we're just going to get rid of all this. See in here, there's all this geometry here to make that a slightly tapered hole. So on Battle Axe, when you're installing that aluminum bar, it can go in smooth and then tighten up towards the back to hold it in place securely. But we don't need that on this bit. We also don't need this 3, because this is probably not going to be part number 3 on the new blaster. What else? We don't need these bar slots. I haven't quite decided yet what this blaster is going to be held together using. It might be using aluminum bars, but it's not going to be in that same position, probably. So I can just get rid of these for now. There we go. And I can do the same over here. Oop. Yep. Very good. I can get rid of this lump. Boom. Beautiful. I think I'd have to show you a picture by added bits sticking off the sides of the Battle Axe mag halves and then use hopper bracket. It will fit around this weird mix. Okay, neat. I saw your video of that thing. It looks real good. forward to seeing that finished. Alright, so we've got mid-cover front, and we've got mag holder, which is this back bit here. What do I want to do here? I think for now, I want to actually combine these pieces so it's easier to work with. And then that causes there to be a little cavity in a lot of these bits. So I'm going to actually highlight all of them and then join. And that will make it all one solid bit, which you can see here. Now it's all one solid body instead of having those little empty bits on the middle. I don't need all these chamfers and fillets and crap. Let's get rid of that. I do need that one because that one helps with making the magazine aligned correctly. I guess I'll keep those ones. I'll get rid of that. There we go. Now I can get rid of this, which is just a bump out that I had for the aluminum bar, which goes underneath this bit on Battle Axe, which I don't need for this new thing. So I can get rid of that. There we go. Alrighty. So for this bit, I need to get rid of these lumps down here, and instead of doing that carefully, I'm just gonna chop them out because that's easier. And I'm going to be redoing most of this area anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. So let's get all that highlighted, and then just go, and there we go. Beautiful. Just a little bit of cleanup here and there, and then that's good. Faces and making them all mash together, like so. There we go. Cool. I don't need that, or that, or that. And I don't need that. And I can just cut this along that face and get rid of that. And I can cut this along this face. Get rid of this. Just making everything super simplified, so I can then splice it onto the rest of the blaster. So we'll combine those bits, and that should go onto that just fine. There we go. Beautiful. Really need to get quicker at fusion, haha. I don't know. It's a useful skill to have. Wonder if a Smiley style breacher battle axe system would be feasible. I've thought through it a bit. I don't think that the prime length is long enough to really make it like have enough power to work well. I think that it would be possible. I just think that would be a bit of work. And it would definitely have a lot of dead space as well. But you could do it. I think it would work. It would just have a lot of dead space between the plunger tube and the shells themselves, which isn't necessarily a horrible thing. You can deal with that. Yeah, it's worth looking into. What mouse do you use? I have a Logitech G703 Lightspeed mouse, which I keep hardwired to the computer at all times because I don't really like Bluetooth. Before this mouse, I ran through like 4 or 5 Razer Death Adder mice, which always break and suck. I love the way that they felt, but they're horribly made. Now, that's not to say that the Logitech has been excellent. I've had 2 or 3 of these Logitech G703s. Eventually, the scroll wheel starts to like do this weird double feeding thing where it scrolls forwards a little bit and then scrolls back a little bit each time that you just try to scroll forwards. Like the scrolling sensor gets worn out on them oddly. Now I was able to do a warranty replacement on 1 or 2 of those to get replacements for free from Logitech, but still a bit iffy. But other than that, it's a good mouse. Fusion is super glitched for me. I moved my mouse over the model and erased it like it was a brush tool. Yeah, Fusion has some funky visual glitches every once in a while. Alright. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to just extend some of these shapes backwards a bit, but that involves getting rid of a lot of these fillets first, because otherwise they will begin to interfere with stuff. So I'm going to get rid of those real quick. There we go. There we go. Get rid of that stuff right there. Beautiful. Nice round top. Great. So I'm going to extend this face here backwards, not using the push press pull tool. I'm going to use the extrude tool because I want to actually keep this face here where it is. If I use the push pull tool, I can actually show you. It would continue that slope down and then make it fully circular along that bit, which I don't want. I want there to be that flat along the bottom, so I'm going to do that instead. And that means that this needs to be like that. There we go. Cool. I don't need this. And then I don't need these. So get rid of that. And I don't need these. So I'm just going to cut those off and then recombine the face afterwards, or recombine the body afterwards to fix that. And I'm also going to run first I'm going to save, and then I'm going to run a validate command on all of this, just to make sure that there's no horrible glitches or anything like that destroying the universe. Yep. Okay. What else am I doing? What am I gonna do? Guess I can slice that face there. Get rid of that. I think that I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'll just keep working on stuff. Oh, that's gonna glitch out because that's still there. There we go. Yay, Fusion 360. Don't like it. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to use this wonderful opportunity to go. Oh, yep. So that destroyed everything. I'm going to be right back. Take a quick little break. BRB. Guess who's back? Back again. It's me. It's me, your boy. Alright. Okay. Back to blaster work. Alright. Let's get back to it. So we're still just cleaning up all of the stuff. sure there's a lot of stuff going on up here. Let's try that. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. There we go. So that is all cleaned up. Validate. Nothing cataclysmic happening. Boundary. No empty spaces inside of it. Cool. Now we've got those bits. So chamber and beautiful. Okie dokie. So that was 1 millimeter. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Now let's extend this forwards a little bit, and then combine those two bodies to make one piece. Just like that. There we go. So now we've got a sort of combined mega structure here of the magwell and the ejection components of a battle axe. And of course there's some empty voids in there because we just mashed those parts together. So we'll just select all those and join them to the main bit. There we go. Now it's nice and solid on the inside. There we go. All right. Now what do I want to do? I'm just thinking through some stuff right now. I think I want that to be a little bit more chamfered. I want to have, where's that, there we go, this muzzle bit. Actually, I want to sting this out by 5. And then combine those two bits. There we go. Let's cut that as a cone. That there. Now we can combine those bits. Beautiful. So now that conical shape matches that conical shape there. Very nice. Isolate that. Let's give that a little bit of a chamfer as well. Alrighty. So that's a 40mm diameter hole. This is 4mm wall, and that is 1mm between that and that, because this top one is what, 50? Yeah. It's 50, so it's 25, and that's 24 radius. Very good. Okay. So now that that's done, what do I want to do now? That's a good question to me. I don't know what I want to do now. I think I want to make a folder for the breach components. So let's do that. Cool. Alrighty. I forget, does this have... Yeah, it does. Okay. Alrighty. And that's the top shell in the magazine right there. That's the new muzzle. Ejector. Magazine holder. And then this is the bolt face. Just bolt components. Very good. Save that. Now what? What am I doing? I think I want to make that like, I don't know, 8 millimeters down there from that face. So let's make that that. There we go. Let's make this a little bit further back. There we go. I want to get rid of this. Like that. And that. Actually, do I want to get rid of that? I don't think I want to get rid of that yet. Okay. And then this will be the radius, which I will delete later. But for now, just so it looks nice, let's do that. There we go. Cool. So that's our magazine setup for now. What do I want to do next? At some point, I do need to move that bit forwards, so it's at 95 millimeters of backwards travel as opposed to 105 like it is on Battle Axe currently. So let's figure out how to do that. I think I just need to cut this and just slide it forwards a bit. Forwards 10 millimeters, and then reconnect it. You should be able to just do that. Yep. There we go. And then this is also 10 millimeters forwards. Cool. So now, when this is pulling back on a shell, is going to pull it back until it hits right about there, and then the shell's going to pop out the side. About there. Ignore this weird blue outline. That's for a different shell being shown for some reason. Oh, it's this one. There we go. So this is going to be ejecting. This orange one here is going to be ejecting at that point, which should be clear of this stuff up here. So I think that's good. And that's traveling back to there as the full backwards travel point of the bolt. So that's good. Let me write a note for that in my note-taking thing over here. Note bolt travels 95 millimeters With this design, do you plan for it to be full semi-auto like HPA thing, or would it need to be pump action to cycle properly with all the extra friction parts? So I'm planning for this to be full automatic or semi-automatic. No manual operation needed other than just pulling the trigger. In order to accomplish that, I've gotten a larger pneumatic cylinder than the one I had on the HPA thing. So we'll see if that works out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to do something. I don't know what to do next. I guess I could do the detachable magazine bits. So, plans for the detachable magazine. Could have sworn I started detachable elsewhere on a different project. So let me just Google that. Or not Google that. Let me just search in my note-taking stuff. I'm just looking back at my notes to make sure that I do this correctly, because my plan is to make these detachable magazines good enough to use in several different blasters, rather than it just being for this one blaster here. So I need to design the feed lips and whatnot in a way where it will work and all those things. Part of that is going to be I need to go find that shell holder model. Is it in here? Yes. So shell holder dispenser. Do I have those in my bolt action project? Is it this? No. Did I even bolt action? Silly shell. Where is the model that I'm looking for? It's going to be up here in B for box mag. And then is there a bolt action thing up here? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Box mag feeding testbed 2 from 3/5/2024. That might be what I'm looking for. could have sworn that I started a project at some point, which was a bolt-action silly shell blaster, which had detachable magazines, and I thought I had started the detachable magazine over there at some point. Is that dispenser publicly available? It's not yet, but I'm planning on getting it released before Breacher goes out. So sometime before the end of August is my plan. It just uses the elastic to hold the shells, and then this is mid-lock from Chance, so this just like attaches onto Molly or a belt or something. And then you just take shells off the top to load into your blaster manually. Right, so the feed lips from this. Sort of shaped like that, okay. And then this project over here. This was from before I even made Battle Axe. This is really old. I do need to look at the magazine feed lips. Because these magazines I designed to feed from the magazine into a feed ramp, which then goes into the chamber, as opposed to the Battle Axe magazines, which stay in the magazine all the time and then fire from the magazine position and then get pulled out the back. Now, I kind of want to keep that mechanism where it just keeps them in the magazine at all times, because that's easier to design around, but I'm not sure if that's good enough to keep them in the magazine without them falling out, like when you're swapping magazines or having them on gear. You don't want all the shells to be falling out of their mags. So I'm going to have to think through that a little bit. Do you think a lever-action silly shell blaster could work like a remixed Breacher? Yes, a lever-action silly shell blaster could work. The problem with it, it's going to be big. It's going to be really big to work with silly shells. Like your lever length is going to have to be really unwieldy, like bigger than a slab lever length, prime length, because you also need to prime a longer plunger tube. So you could do it, but it would be a little bit of a pain. But I have full confidence in the community's ability to make that project without me having to sink 2 years into it. Someone else can make a lever action silly shell blaster and make that, and then get all the popularity from that. I think I'm okay with that. It's definitely doable. Just gonna be a little bit of a pain. Especially if you used a system like the Smiley's magazine and grip thing. Or not magazine grip, sorry. Plunger tubing grip, like the Smiley. That would work really well, because that mechanism was actually originally designed by Mr. Heathpants for a lever action blaster. So inherently, it's well suited to lever action. The problem is just you need to get longer prime length out of it to work with silly shells. And then there's some dead space with that mechanism inherent to it between the end of the plunger tube and where the shells would sit up here somewhere. So yeah, you could do it. It would just need some clever thinking and a lot of careful alignment of parts. Right. So I got out these two files here because I want to grab the magazines from them. So let's do that. Just the magazines. Don't need the rest of it. So I'm just going to copy and paste those bits from those blaster projects and put them in there. These are some old files. Right, so on this, I wanted the left, right, and that bit there. Copy and paste. Very good. And then get rid of that. Good. those into folders. So it's this mag 1, this mag 2, and that's the breacher bit. Okie dokie. Here we go. So we got this old magazine, and we've got this old shell holder thing, both to reference for the feed lips. So I want to align that bottom surface with this, which is a 15-degree angle. So I'm just going to grab all these bits and rotate them 15 degrees like that. There we go. Got that bit up there. We're just going to move this. So this is concentric with that. Beautiful. And then we can move both of these once we show the full battle axe stuff. I'm just going to move both of those. Whoop. So that these line up with this. Once I hit that. Whoop. There we go. What did wait, how did you just do that? How did I just do what? Context. Tired. Alright. How did you manage to angle that the correct amount so quickly? Change the angle of this thing like that. It's just the move command, and then rotate it off of that. Or are you talking about how to find the correct angle for that? I used the measure tool to measure the bottom surface relative to the origin of the file. I copied the angle by clicking on that, and then in that move tool, I just pasted that angle in there and then moved it to the correct spot. Okay. Feed lips. So we got the feed lips here, here, and here, essentially. I don't need that. Don't need that. What I do need is I need to stick some of these up here. Actually, whoop. I'm gonna make a new folder. Just to get these out of my way, I'm gonna move them into the miscellaneous folder up here. There we go. Hello, chill guy. Right. Now what do I do? Let's move all of these into here. Now I can hide everything that's not a magazine. Very good. Okie dokie. So. This is one option for the magazine. problem with this is that it only feeds out the front, which I don't really want to do. Now what I could do is, because since these are flat printed magazines, like they're printed flat on that orientation, I could do some funkiness which I couldn't do normally if they were printed vertically. Such as, I could add a little compliant leaf spring looking thing here to just keep the shells from falling out the back if I use this shape of magazine here. Which would be interesting. That sounds fun, Jaeger. Battle Axe at HPC. That's pretty great. I recently got a dump pouch from Film Mando at Maryland Mayhem 2025. It was really nice and gave it to me for free. That was really kind. But I'm planning on using that at a game on the 26th here locally in Maine. Filled with silly shells. Should be fun. And I also have a bandolier of silly shells from Boomstick mods, which I'm going to use. And I also have silly shell holders for a belt from Team Sticks. But I'm not planning on using those for this game because the belt is going to be busy holding the dump pouch, and I don't want to have too much going on there. I want to run a little bit lighter so I can run around fast. Alrighty. I'm yawning a lot. Oh boy. Okay. So this is the shape of our magazine. This is the shape of Battle Axe magazine right here. One thing that I think I could try out on this is, so what I'm thinking about right now is, since I'm setting this magazine standard for the future, I want to have it work in as many different formats as I can. So, you know what, let's pop up a this Discord page. Here we go. So, notes for detachable magazines. There we go. I hope that you can see this. So, we've got the notes for the detachable magazines. Let's make a little bullet pointed list here. There we go. So, first off, should so it should be symmetrical, so it works in left-handed and right-handed blasters. That's why I was thinking about this sort of cutout here being off symmetry on Battle Axe. That could cause issues because I want people to be able to just mirror all the parts of the main blaster in order to have it left-handed, like Captain Xavier. So, what I was just thinking of before I started making the list was, how about I make this sort of cutout on both sides, and then I have it so that there's 4 drum springs in the magazine, and they're all just in the front half of it. So you still have these 2 center ones here, or you have 2 center ones here, and then you have 2 more up here. That should probably keep the follower still reasonably center aligned, bounce-wise, to prevent it from jamming up. And that would allow the back half to be a lot more open, so it can be left-handed and right-handed. I think that should be good. And then how are you going to do the 40mm screws that add the little bulges? What, these bits here? What about them? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, Lightning Eagle. Rephrase, so I can answer. So we've got those bits, and then I was thinking for the front, I don't want it to be quite as cavernously open as this, so I'm going to make it a little bit tighter up front, and I'm also going to add little tabs, I guess, printed tabs to the front and back of this to prevent shells from just falling out of the magazine. So let's write all that down. Add printed tabs that flex out of the way of the shells. These tabs will help hold the shells in the magazine when the magazine is outside of a blaster. Front biased springs for the magazine follower. This allows the back to be symmetrical. Try 4 springs. Okay. And then how are you going to do the 40mm screws? Thing. I thought they protruded into the side. I don't know. I think I can work around them fine. And I'm also considering making this just a little bit thicker. This like wall here, which is 6mm thick right now, just a little bit thicker, so I can just make those little nubbins not needed, hidden better. Silly, have you thought of making a rival blaster? I have. I've actually think I've started 2 or 3 rival blasters in the past. Haven't finished any of them, and rival is kind of dead now, unfortunately. Like, there's not a ton of it, which sucks, but that's just how it is. One of those projects was based upon a project that Adrian did. Adrian, Ehdrien. Adrian, the gecko guy. Swell guy. He made a concept art essentially for a pump action blaster that was like an upside down Chronos mechanism, scaled up quite a bit, so it was a full size pump action blaster, and you put balls in the back or you put balls in the front, and then a big tube magazine went all the way back into the stock, so it was like a bullpup. I tried to do something like that, and that was actually the inspiration for Intimidator, which is one of my other silly shell blasters that I'm working on, where I went, I could do that with shells instead of with balls. But I did try to work out a rival ball thing like that in the past, but I didn't get very far, and I kind of lost interest because rival isn't extremely popular anymore. Silly, did you experiment with longer shell stabilizers at all? I have a super long extended stabilizer, and it seems to have helped shell ejection be more reliable versus how I cut down the stock one. On Battle Axe style mechanism, I have not experimented with an extremely long shell stabilizer for no particular reason other than the one that I have in it right now at release. That one worked for me, and I didn't try any other ones because it worked. That's essentially that. On Breacher, it doesn't have a shell stabilizer. For people that don't know what we're talking about, the shell stabilizer is this orange piece up here, which helps stabilize the shell as it's being pushed out of the magazine. On Breacher, I don't have this, first of all, because there's not enough space, but second of all, because Breacher is a much more enclosed system, where on Battle Axe, this sort of top of the magazine area is open to the air. So it's not well constrained by the surrounding body pieces. But on Breacher, it is constrained, so I don't need that. Yeah. But I have not tried a longer one than this on Battle Axe. For no particular reason. Just didn't occur to me, and it didn't seem like it needed it. Right. What was I doing? I'm going to start working on the magwell. Or on the mag. Not the magwell. I'm going to start working on the magazine. Right. So one of the other things I need to consider is corner-to-corner printing of this thing. So what I don't have on this Fusion 360 file yet, which I do have on the one for Battle Axe, is I made a little thing like this for all the different printer sizes. So 150, 150. We got, what else have we got? We got 150, 150. We've got 250. I think that's Ender 3. Ender 3 build volume. It's like 256 by 256, right? No, it's 220 by 220. Sorry. 220. There we go. And then, what was it? What's the Bamboo Lab? PMP print volume. That's 256 by 256, right? Yeah. 256. And then that's oh right, and then 180 by 180. There we go. So this is essentially all the printer sizes for their build plates, all the popular ones. Printer build plate size. So what I do with this is I need to check that the largest piece for this magazine still fits within as many print volume sizes as I can. Now I did that on these magazines by actually trimming this corner up here. That was a conscious choice so that you can set it 45 degrees and it still just barely fits on some of these. That angle right there makes it just barely fit on some of these build plate sizes. Yep. So stuff like that. I think it's actually on the 6th shell magazine that makes it barely fit on this one right here. That size. Anyway, trimming off that corner makes it so that you can do that sort of thing easier. Did you see that crap? I don't know what's up with that. There's a glitch in Fusion where it unnames a thing that you name. It drives me nuts. Printer, print, bed, sizes. Save that. Stop. Don't delete that text that I just typed. Stupid thing. Drives me nuts. Bigger. I see empty space. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, right. Magazine. So we got these bits. And then patch notches on front and back. And corners to allow for as many magwell There we go. So there's those bits. Cool. Alrighty. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take this here magazine. And we're going to do some stuff to it. We're going to essentially copy all of this stuff again over here. So just a Control-C, Control-V, and we'll see if it didn't really enjoy that. All right, well, while that's doing that, I'm going to turn back on my music and listen to music, which you guys can't hear because copyright. I'm not going to talk much while I'm working on this. I'm just going to chill. Bird Brain is a really good song. I love it. I've been listening to it pretty much every day since it released. It's so good. This doesn't have a follower. I think the 6 shell, yeah, this has the follower. Let's copy that into here. Yeah, exactly. I don't know when I'm supposed to stop. Do you think it would be possible for the mags to be shorter than 40mm screws so they can be cheaper? You mean less wide than 40mm screws? Probably not. The 40mm screws are pretty much like the minimum that would need to be because it needs to reach from one end all the way to the other end, so it's strong enough. Any shorter than that, and you're going to get weakness. So I don't think so, unfortunately. Like I do try to make the magazines as inexpensive as I can, but I don't know about that. I think that's going to cause issues. Like you can go cheaper, but as you go cheaper, you get less reliable at that point. And I want to have better reliability, which sucks for costs, but so be it. Let's isolate this. I don't need this screw anymore because that just keeps it into the battle axe. I don't need that bit there either. Or that. Yep. Mag pull over there. Alrighty. So this little bump up here, this little is just so it can hold this little magazine feed lip alignment nubbin. But I'm not sure quite how much I need to keep that on this since I'm going to be making it symmetrical. What if you printed rings that went around the outside of the mags to replace the screws instead? You could do that. I guess you could do that, but that I think that would end up costing more because of filament cost than just a few screws. I think that would end up actually costing more. And then also you would have to glue it, and then it would also be not as easily removable and stuff like that. Not as easy to maintenance the mags. I think that's better to keep them like this. Do I know of any spool wind-up blasters like the starter on a lawnmower? Yes, but none that are community made. There's an old vintage blaster called the Ripcord, which is essentially sort of like what you're describing. Sort of. And then the only other thing that I can think of that would be vaguely similar would be like the Buzzsaw and the Ripsaw, which are also vintage Nerf blasters, where you essentially just pull back a thingy and it revs up flywheels. And then also the Rev Reaper, which is essentially a modern version of that. And then I recently actually made a blaster that's essentially a homemade Rev Reaper. I haven't made a video on it yet because it's bad. I did it in literally a week, start to finish, so it's really rough. So I haven't made a video on it yet, but essentially Rev Reaper is sort of like that. But you're saying like string ripcord to prime, in which case the ripcord is the only one that I can think of. Is that the name of the thing that I'm thinking of? Yeah, this thing. The ripcord. Which is so cool, and also so crap. I love this era of Nerf blasters. There's so much weird stuff that is both amazing and horrible at the same time. Yeah. Oh, and also someone, actually, I'm not sure if I can talk about that one. There's someone else working on a string pulled plunger blaster. There you go. That's pretty much all that I'm going to say. Now back to the magazine. TPU rings to hold something together. Less flexible rubber bands. Yeah. So to hold together the magazine. Those would all work, but I'm not really sure how I feel about that, because that would also make the outside of the magazine not smooth, and I want to keep it all smooth along the outside, like Talon magazines, so it can be in like elastic-powered magazine holders and stuff like that. I'm not just thinking about a magazine. I'm thinking about an entire ecosystem of how are you going to have the magazine? How is the magazine going to hold the shells? How is the magazine itself going to be held in tactical gear, in the blaster, in anything else? Like, got to think about all of those things. So I want to have like smooth sides in order to work in all those things really well. And in order to have smooth sides, you got to have something flush in there to hold it together. And in that case, screws. And I want it to be able to be taken apart for maintenance, like clean out dirt and crap. Hi, Steve. I wish that I could play the music for the live stream, but I think it's all copyrighted. Well, it's Vocaloid music, so I assume that it's copyrighted, but probably not super copyrighted because it's a remix culture around that sort of music. But I'm not going to take chances by playing it on the stream. But it's good stuff. Hyperactive music to keep me awake while I 3D model. Alright, magazine. Right, so I would save, and then I can start cutting this up into the chunks I want to work with. Yep. Blah. Words. Cool. Okay. I forget. Do I? I do. I have a magazine on my shelf. A standalone Battle Axe magazine. So I'm just gonna grab that so I can have something in my hand. Yeah, exactly. ADHD brain loves Vocaloid. Exactly. That's the whole point. It's impossible to pay attention to squat. So, yes. That's also why I enjoy it. Oh, boy. Alright. Yes, Paradox. I'm working on detachable magazine for this blaster, and I'm doing all the design work around it so it can be used in other blasters as well, which is why this is taking a little bit longer than if I just had to do it as a one-off for one blaster. I want to make this magazine as compatible with as many different layouts and formats and printers and stuff like that as I can, so I'm doing a bit of slow, methodical, planned design work ahead of time. Hi, Xbox. So the sides are going to be symmetrical, I just haven't modeled it that way yet. As it is like this, as you see it here, this was just for the Battle Axe. The two sides were not symmetrical, both because I only needed 3 drum springs to power this, so it could be non-symmetrical from the start, and also because throughout the development of Battle Axe, I sort of had a brain fart and realized that the ejector couldn't reach the shells in the magazine, so I just kind of hacked out this space here to make it work. And that was fine, because these magazines are only used in Battle Axe. But now that I'm making them, modifying these magazines to work in all kinds of blasters, I need to do that better. Yes, Vocaloid music, very good for ADHD brain, very good. I've also got the Nomad core that I plan to use now in my hands. And a shard of metal just came out of it. Lovely. That's... Why is there a shard of metal coming out of my Nomad core? This was not on the menu. This was not in my order. Interesting. Anyway, Cosmic Nomad core. So it's a little bit thinner than a Nerf, than a plunger tube that I normally use. So it's a little bit thinner than that. So this should work just fine on the back of the bolt face for this HPA blaster, which is good. So let's put that on the desk over there. And I've got my battle axe magazine in my hand. So I'm going to be messing around with this to see just how I want to do this. Is that Discord server public? It is not. Sorry. It's also not even really a Discord server for talking much. It's just I don't want to take paper notes, so I just use each Discord channel as just tons of notes and crap, like lots of notes, and I just pin stuff as I work on it. So it's not really meant to be a public server, and all these people are in here just because they're either friends of mine or because they themselves are designers or stuff like that, or beta testers who I trust. Like this guy. This guy is pretty cool. And this guy is also pretty cool. Yeah, and this guy, pretty cool. But yeah, that's what I've got. I need to focus on doing the actual CAD as opposed to blabbing. Alright. Right. So, I want to have just 4 drum springs on this one. Or, sorry. I want to have 4 drum springs on this, not just 4, because this normally has 3. I want to have 4 drum springs so that I can front bias all of the shells towards the, or all of the springs towards the front of the lifter without it becoming unreliable due to being misaligned. So we're gonna try that out. And then I can also try printing it with just 3 drum springs just as a prototype to see if it still works with that. But I'm gonna plan ahead for 4. What's the cost of an out of darts drum spring? Out of darts drum spring. Out of darts drum magazine spring. Here we are. This costs $225 per spring. So if we get 4, it's going to be what? $10? $9? How much does it cost? I think that's $9. And how much does each Talon magazine cost? Nerf Talon magazine. Like, I'm comparing this to a Talon mag. $12. Oh, that's for an 18 round. How much does Talon magazine cost for a normal one? $8. Talon mag. So it's like 11. Seeing $12 for 15 dart Talon magazine from Worker. Okay. So 4 drum springs on this plus print time. I think that'll be fine financially. It won't be too bad. Yeah. So let's plan for 4 drum springs. Alright, so I think I'm going to keep this center position one in the same spot, and then I'm just going to mirror that one onto that side. And I'm going to keep this, or this thing over here, this alignment tab where it is. I'm going to just scooch it down a bit. I think that'll work. Okay, let's start modeling. So let's get rid of this. Drum springs are like $1. Yeah, I was just thinking like Talon magazines are $1. Where the heck are you getting $1 Talon magazines? Yeah, drum springs are like $1. That makes sense. I wonder how much Moose's Moose. I wonder how much his drum springs are. Catalog. And I need the drum springs. Because he has them in bulk. Yeah. So Misplaced Moose has these drum springs, which are slightly different, but as far as I understand it, are compatible with the Out of Darts or Foam Blast spec drum springs. So, and these are $1 each on sale right now. So that works out. Just a little bit different, but should be mostly good enough-ish, probably, maybe. Alrighty. Right. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting rid of all this crap on that side because it's not needed. However, I do need to keep this stuff down here. So I'm going to trim that like that. And I think I can just get rid of this. Oop. And then on this side, I need to keep that bit in there because that has text on it. Telling people to lubricate the magazine so they don't forget. I just went down and dissolved those mirror parts of these, so now these are not mirrored connected. Previously, if you moved this one, that one would move mirrored to this one because they were tied together. Now they're no longer tied together, so I can modify this one without it affecting that one. Hello. Yeah, Moose's springs are just go up slightly more to accommodate his mag design. Yeah. Well, I think that they're also just easier for him to buy like that, as opposed to the Out of Darts Foam Blast spec. I think it was more so sourcing. I could be wrong though. All right. So the plan is to have this tab here be moved down a bit so it's past the surface of this face here, which means that this is going to need supports, but who cares? It's a tiny little support over there. It's easy peasy. Now, I could design it so it's a slant, so it wouldn't need supports. However, then it would wedge itself out of the top of the magazine, which would be bad. So it's got to be a flat surface that's supported. I think that should be fine. I might put a little drawing of an Among Us here on the bottom of the follower. That'd be nice. I haven't done an Easter egg like that in a little while, other than the smiley face on Breacher and Excalibur. On my old Silly Pistol Blaster, which I still haven't released, I had like a little Among Us guy, and I also had Loss on the side, which was funny. Big fan of old Dink memes, such as Loss. Among Us is New Age meme, which I also love. What was I doing? Right, I need to slice this up into little tidbits. Slice that like that in the middle, and then I'm going to get just those bits I can get rid of the bits I don't need. So I don't need that, because the spring's not going to be there. I don't need this, because the spring is going to be there. And I don't need this, because the spring is going to be there. I think. Actually, do I want to keep one of these? And put it between the two springs? That's probably a good idea. I'm going to do that. Man, I'm so smart. Got that big old wrinkly brain. So intelligent. This thing, that thing. Oh, that should have been half. And then this. What's the distance between that and that? Divided by 2. The distance between that and that is 13. So I'm going to go this back 13. There we go. That should be good. Now I can get rid of this. I'll fix the arrow on the top some other time, if I remember. Right, so we've got that there now. And then this face here, I don't need anymore, because that's going to be part of this, which is mirrored over. Boom. And then these get combined with that, more or less. Like I said, I'll fix the arrow later. But for now, let's just make it flat on top. So I can cut that now, and then that, and then this can all just be mirrored along that. And there we go. Now we've got a drum mag. Fix that little error there. Perfect. Nailed it. So we've got a mag follower, which has just 4 drum springs, or it has 2 on each side, just on the front half. And it's got this extra little liney bit to help it from tilting. And I think that should work. We shall see once I do a physical prototype. But for now, let's just assume that works. Which means I can get this. And then I can start preparing to do that stuff. That is a spring feeding channel. This is a drum mag alignment channel. So I need to slice this up into its individual bits as well. Which I can do like this. Let's get that up there, down to here. And then that up to there. However, I need to also take into account that there's got more on the outside. So let's do that. That should work. Yep. And then trim those to make that all into one big outline around the shape that I need to cut out. Oh, and it also keeps the 7. That's convenient. Okie dokie. I'm gonna have to change those arrows at the bottom from the lubrication note some other time. Let's cut that. No. Is that throwing a... it is throwing a fit. Okay. Alrighty. How do I want to deal with that? Maybe... So sometimes Fusion does weird crap like that, where it doesn't quite enjoy what I've done. So let's try this. Maybe it's because those two faces down there were perfectly in line with each other. Yep, that was a problem. Now it will let me do that correctly. So now we've got those two bits separated from the rest of it, which is good. So now I can move those wherever I need them. Let's do this. Let's show all bodies. Move that stuff into its own folder. There we go. Magwell stuff. Alright, and then this is the magazine. Hide that. Cool. Get rid of that mirror bit. Cool. And save. Is the mag going straight in or nose and drop back? I think it's going to be a straight in insert mag. Mainly because it's going to be easier to design around, I believe. What am I doing? My brain, no worky. Right. That side over there needs to become this thing. So I'm going to do that. Right, so this needs to move over by 13 millimeters. I remember that from the last time. 13 millimeters for that thing. These don't need to change quite yet. These falling guides over there. This just needs to be back to here. Like that. And then I don't think I really need to muck with that one because that's already lined up with that. And I don't need to recut it because it's the same as this one, or it should be at least. So I should just be able to measure the distance between these two things down here. Between these two things. 16. So what I can do is I can just go. Is that right? Is that what I want to do? Not sure if that's right, actually. We're going to try it out anyway. I'm trying to get all these alignment nubbins all correctly put in position. That number that I had was not correct. Cool. All right, let's try this again. The distance between this and this is 26. That's right. I didn't need the edge to edge. I needed the middle to middle. That's better. Okay, so this is 26. There we go. That's better. Gonna need to change how the viewing windows are laid out for these new mags, because these are all overlapping. So that one is in the correct position. So we're going to combine that with that. This needs to remove that. So we're going to do that. Problem is that that is still connected, so we're going to have to cut that and get rid of that. Now we can get that. And is this still connected? No. Very good. Okay. And then this, we need to do that too as well. So we got that thing, which we don't need. And then I think that's it for that. So this has been Swiss cheese. Look at all of these bodies. Oh my god, there's so many parts now. So now we can mash those two bits together. And these two bits together. Now what is this? Okay. And that's how we get that. Very good. And now we could technically just mirror those. Do I want to do that? I'm not sure. This 7 is now messed up. Been trying to learn Fusion 360 to make cool stuff on my own, but it's proven difficult. Do you have some good advice to start learning all the basic controls and techniques? Not really. I sort of self-taught myself Fusion 360, so a lot of the stuff that I do isn't necessarily the correct way to do it. So I don't really know the correct way to do some of these things in terms of like explaining them to people. If you go to my website, stuffbysilly.com, and you go to the How to Design Blasters section, I think that there's some stuff on there about Fusion 360 stuff, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then also just go on YouTube and look up Fusion 360 tutorial. There's some good stuff on there. Search Autodesk Fusion tutorial or learning basics or anything like that. There's some good videos on that. A lot of them are kind of slow because it's like an older person that's been doing this for 20 years or whatever. And he's just kind of meandering through how to do basic things. But if you can sit through those videos, then you can probably learn some good stuff about the program. But I self-taught myself it by just doing crap in the program and seeing what worked and what made it crash for like 2 years. And then I knew how to do things. So, yeah. How do you get all the hardware when you do prototypes and stuff? So I used to just buy it from either an in-person hardware store or from McMaster-Carr or from Amazon. Nowadays, I get my hardware from Out of Darts, and I get either a discount on it or I get it for free because they want to support me, which is nice. So I can just ask them for aluminum bars, and they'll send me aluminum bars, which is nice. But for a lot of hardware, I still need to buy it myself because, you know, I don't want to ask them for 300 440 screws or 300 number 4 screws or 20 aluminum bars or 30 K26 springs or anything like that. So I just go and buy those using money from Patreon supporters. So thank you, Patreon supporters. And also stuff that Out of Darts doesn't carry, which is a lot of stuff, like HPA components, components needed for air blasters or stuff like that. And, you know, getting hardware for new stuff that Out of Darts doesn't carry yet, which they will carry once that blaster comes out, such as I needed to buy a lot of the 832 threaded rods and heat set inserts and crap like that for the breacher builds, because I don't want them to have to ship me, you know, tons of 832 rod from California to Maine cross country when I can just get them here locally. So yeah, I buy components myself most of the time. But Out of Darts does send me free stuff when I ask for it, which is very kind of them, and that helps. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. All right. What was I doing? Let me resume my music. That's not my music. That is the live stream. Where's my music? Here's my music. Oh. Yeah. Words. Brain no work. Right. I want to save this 7. So I'm going to make an extrusion of that. And then I'm going to use this. Oop, this. Cut that out of that. Because I need that bit. I can get rid of these bits. Down here. I don't need that. And then we can just get this thing and merge that into that. And I can get my 7 back by getting rid of this old one. And then using this, cut that back into there. Beautiful. Okay. And then this. Using that to cut that. Get that. This. And that bit requires the bottom to be cut. And there we go. And then combine that with that and that. And then combine this with this. Now, did that work? Let's check my work. We've got this. We've still got the screw hole on the correct side. And down there. That arrow needs to be tweaked, but I'll do that later. This needs to be tweaked. This sort of stuff going on down here. But again, I can fix that later. So let's actually slice that off and keep that for later. And then these are working good. So this is now 2 springs on this side and a guiding rib there. Very good. So that's 2 millimeters at the bottom there. So I can actually just combine that with that, and that with that, and then do that. Nope, can't do that. Can I do that? Nope. Okay. Can I do that? No. Great. Thank you, Fusion 360. All right, undo that. Can I cut these both along that face? Yes. And then offset that and then combine all this crap. Lovely. That seems like it's good, probably. Cool. Really thought Fusion 360 was still down. Has it been down? I don't know. I haven't seen any downtime yet today. So do you think 130 USD will be enough for the hardware kit in the future when it releases? What, for the breacher? Yeah, for the breacher. I sure as heck hope so. For a hardware kit, yeah. Here, let me pause my music. So I was planning on having the hardware kit be like $75. However, I was planning on that before the whole tariff situation happened, and then everything got way more expensive for stupid reasons. So now it's probably going to be like $85 or $95, which sucks. But that's just how much stuff costs now. But I don't even know. I don't even know what the cost is going to be until it actually goes up on the Out of Darts and the Silver Fox Industries shop, because they do their own price calculations for the stuff that they sell. I just provide the list of crap that's needed. So I don't know how much it's going to cost. I sure hope it's less than $130. If it comes up to $130, then I'm going to be very unhappy with someone, because that is not how much stuff costs. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's like $90, which sucks, because I was planning for $75, but now stuff costs more money. So, yeah. That's how that goes. But, yeah. To answer your question, probably $95 or $90 for a hardware kit for Breacher on release. I hope. I really hope. Which is a lot, but that's how it is. I'm very unhappy about that, but world is not exactly a lovely place right now, so that's how it goes. Yep. All right. Back to my music. I'm probably going to end the live stream in a little bit here. I have to eat lunch, and then I have a meeting with someone later. Actually, when is that meeting? Yeah, I have a meeting with someone at 1 p.m. my time, so I'm going to have to end the live stream sometime within the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer on my phone. But yeah. Other than that, I'm just chipping away at this detachable magazine, and I think that's going pretty well. That seems good right there. So how many bits do I got? All right. Need to save those for later. Those dovetaily bits. So we got this, that, and a bottom bit. Cool. Right. I should fix these bottom bits now. And I only need one of these because I can just mirror it after. this one, I need another one of that. $26. And this one, what was it? 13? 13. Cool. So this combines with that. And then this needs to get bigger. Combine that with that. And then this bit. There we go. Oop. And then combine that, and that. There we go. Very good. Mirror. There we go. And then those go there. There we go. Beautiful. And then that is the guide channel. And then these ones are just for springs. Have you or anyone else ever tried messing around with the X-Shot Fury X hardware to make a blaster like the X-Shot Micro? I have not. I have not seen anyone else try to do so either. It's worth trying out for someone, but that's not really my jam. I prefer the freedom of a fully homemade blaster rather than doing mods or integrations or conversion kits, for the most part, you know. Other than like the Silly Max 1400, which I love. It's one of my favorite designs I've ever made, and that's based on a Titan. But other than that, I don't really muck with that stuff. That was the 5-minute timer. I'm gonna go for another 5 minutes because I wanna. There we go. That is a magazine with 4 drum springs on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 drum springs just on the front half of the follower, and then the follower still has 4 guide ribs, right? Like, oh boy, like that. And here's the follower, and that should all work fine. So now that that is like that, I'm planning on making these back nubbins lower down, so then this sort of cutout here can not have this notch in it. And I think that that will line up pretty well with stuff. So I can move all this up to this folder, show everything in the folder. Dovetails. that is a magazine. Right. Drum springs. Still gotta tweak those. Drum spring. Let's copy and paste that. If I recall correctly, that was 24 millimeters between these ones. And then the middle beam was 13. Or, sorry, these are 26 millimeters between these. Let's see if I'm right. 26. Yes. 26. Yes. Okay, so we have that there. Drum springs. So there's our 4 drum springs, like that. And here is our mag follower, like that. Mag follower has all the holes and pockets needed for said drum springs, which is good. And that should work. So once I make this tweak to have this bit further down, and then I will begin working on the feed lips and stuff like that. But that is either going to be off camera or a different time, because I need to go and eat lunch and then go to a meeting. So thanks for tuning in to the live stream, everybody. I hope that was at least entertaining, perhaps educational, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So yeah, that's what I've got, and I'll see you all again some other time. Perhaps even today. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do another live stream or not after I'm done with my meeting. Alrighty. Thanks